We'll open the workshop of the School Board of Palm Beach County. Would the board clerk take the roll, please?
District 1, Barbara McQuinn. Here. District 2, Alexandria Ayala, absent. District 3, Karen Brill.
Here.
District 4, Erica Whitfield.
Here.
District 5, Frank Barbieri.
Here.
District 6, Marcia Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Deborah Robinson.
We have quorum with 6 board members present. The record should reflect that we have with us Superintendent Michael Burke, General Counsel Shantoya Bernard, and the Inspector General Teresa Michael. Mr. Burke? Oh, I'm sorry, we have one speaker first. Mr. Katz, President Katz from CTA, would you please come up to the microphone?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much. My name is Justin Katz. I'm the president of the Palm Beach County Classroom Teachers Association. I figured with all the negative public speakers in recent times, I would come with a positive comment, and that is to the police chief. I know he has an item on the agenda today regarding general school safety, and CTA had some concerns about a document that was distributed prior to him coming into that position last year that had some guidelines for basic school safety that might have run afoul of some teacher working conditions. And immediately when we raised that to him, he scheduled a meeting, we talked about it, and he assured us that some of our concerns he definitely viewed as legitimate and he would work with that. So I saw in watching his presentation today that there was a reference to that school safety document, and we just wanted to thank the chief for being receptive to some of the teachers' concerns so that they can continue doing their best effort in the classroom. So thank you all.
Thank you, President Katz. Superintendent Burke, take over.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate this opportunity to hold our annual workshop on school safety, and it's timely with the start of school just less than 2 weeks away. So I'd like to welcome Chief Dan Alexander and Chief Operating Officer Ms. Wanda Paul, and also Ms. Lynn Powell, who's part of the school police team with Chief Alexander.
Thank you, Superintendent Burke. Thank you to the board chair and the board. I also want to take the time to thank our employees and our police department. It's one of the few occasions we have to recognize them and thank them for the work that they do. Thanks to Ms. Paul, who works with me daily to make sure our schools are safe, and appreciate the support we receive there, and to our citizens too. For the record, Dan Alexander, your police chief, and today we're going to do a very high-level overview of school safety. 9 slides, so this will be pretty quick. We'll get into more detail later in the year as we get into the SDPBC process and go through a little bit more of what is involved in school safety. So this will be some key elements, and one of the things we have to remember is that there are many key elements to sustaining, building, and maintaining a school safety ecosystem over time. But it really all starts with the people who truly understand our mission and what we're trying to accomplish as an organization. So that's what I want to highlight first.
I believe that my school is one of the best schools in this district. And each and every one of those kids are unique and beautiful in their own ways. And seeing these kids is just a reflection on myself. And the relationship I have with the kids, it's just unique by itself. And what I do, I sit down with them and just talk to them, explain to them my life growing up also. And I'm here for you. If you ever need me for anything, I'll be right there. These kids are my kids. If anyone come on that campus and decide to do anything and their intention is not of good nature, I'll do everything in my power, anything and everything that I have within me to make sure that these kids is protected. I'll do the best that I can.
Well, when I was at Boynton Beach High School, like I said, I was fortunate enough to work with the city of Boynton Beach. So all these kids at Boynton Beach High School, I knew them already. I knew their parents. So I was working with 4 generations of kids from Boynton Beach, so that's 30 years in Boynton Beach. So when I was with the local police department, you get a call involving kids and there's crimes or fights or domestics. A lot of times you don't have discretions. You have to show up on the scene and make the arrest. Here at the school board, you get a call for maybe a fight and you're able to work the problems out, get the kids together, call the parents and tell them what you did. It's a great feeling to settle the cases right there in school and everybody just going their merry way with no criminal records and everybody's happy. So when I was working with the local police departments, I was interacting with, 1,000 kids a year, because that was my job, community policing. Now I come to the school board, I'm working with 1,000 kids a day. And now I'm getting to know these kids on a first name basis, and that just blew my mind. So I thought I was doing something really big back then during the year for 1,000 kids, and now we have 1,000 kids a day. You gain their trust, and every day is a different day, but they know they can come into me and say, Officer Bill, can I talk to you for a second? And right away we come inside, and I help them as much as I possible, and it's a good feeling doing that.
I have a passion for working with kids. I've always wanted to impact and positively influence kids. In high school, one of my role models was a resource officer. I've always wanted to be that same influence in kids' life. If you definitely see a need for helping children and helping families, and not just as a resource, providing the resource to them that's not readily available, but also being that support system, being that mentor, being that special someone that they can call to when they're in need. Being in a school, it's a community. It's not just about affecting arrests, doing the traditional police aspect. It's about building a relationship with the children and making them feel special. I have a son, and it pleases me. That was one of the things that made me want to come into school police. It soothes me to know that there's an officer there, that if something were to happen to my son, that he knows that's the same position I serve in another school for another kid, and he knows he can go to an officer and say, hey, this is what happened to me, and have the conversation and know that his issues will be taken care of and his voice will be heard.
So these are our school police officers. I'm proud of what they do every day. I think you can see the passion and what we've seen on this video here. And it's the lifeblood, it's the heartbeat of what we do in terms of school safety. We talk about all these other elements, but it all starts with the relationships we establish with these kids and making sure that we're taking care of them every day. The next slide here, we'll go over some key elements of our operation. In terms of staffing and allocation, you can see the change that has occurred over the last several years in terms of our staffing post-MSD. The first area kind of represents where we were before with about 238 sworn personnel. Blossoming up to 319 over that time frame. Other key elements as we go through this presentation include our school safety enhancements. We're continuing to work on our single point of entry. We have our social media monitoring, Fortify Florida. We have our Alyssa's Law mobile panic alert system, which will be coming online here soon, reporting and response system, and tips and alerts. All elements on the front end of our school safety program. Another key element that's developed over the last several years is our real-time command center, also known to many of you as our tactical operations center. It's an area where we coordinate with all of our district departments. It's centralized command for major issues that happen, and then every day, every minute, we're paying attention to all of the elements of school safety in a coordinated fashion. Our behavioral services unit is a model program. We just did a presentation for DOE at the state level. For this group, they're specially trained detectives. They focus on school safety and mental health, and they are really the force behind our threat assessments at the highest level. Also in this area, we do our intervention and diversion through youth court. Last March, you approved the Command Central Aware platform for situational awareness, and what this does is it aggregates and integrates all of our streaming video, real-time alerts, provides some analytic data on school safety, allows us to track resources, integrates our computer-aided dispatch and records management system, and includes multi-layered geospatial mapping of our schools and our other district facilities. I'll go over this briefly because we rolled this out last year. Another key element is our interaction with other agencies, both fire, rescue, and police throughout the county. We established the Asher Response Standard Operating Guidelines, the first of its kind, in terms of bringing law enforcement, fire, rescue, emergency management, and trauma centers to the table to ensure that when we do respond, we're literally and figuratively on the same page when it comes to dealing with critical incidents. Briefly, I'm going to run over some short-term projects that we have currently going. As was mentioned earlier, we're clarifying our school safety plans and procedures as that evolves. Just so you know, there were significant rulemaking changes that occurred at the state level, Senate Bill 590 is something I know you all have heard about. There's also a specific rule that has added a number of different criteria and variables to school safety that we'll be working on. We have a significant school security camera project going at this time. We are intending to make some improvements to our radio system so we have communications for our first responders on the scene. Recruitment and retention is a focus, understanding that in the current climate around the country, it's very difficult for agencies to recruit and retain officers. And we'll also be working on transitioning to the National Incident-Based Reporting System, which takes us from essentially 10 offense classifications to over 50 within that time frame. That covers most of our projects and what we're trying to accomplish, at least in the short term. Very high overview in terms of what we're doing. One of the things that I always talk to our staff about is start with why. Why are you here? Why do we do what we do? I get tired of me saying that over time. As I sat in that class last week for school safety specialist, I got to hear from Mr. Ryan Petty. Mr. Petty lost his daughter, Elena, in the MSD tragedy. One of the things that he said really stuck with me. If the kids don't come home, nothing else we do here matters. So as we look at school safety and we think about why we're here, we obviously contribute to a lot of what we're trying to accomplish in terms of education and the success of our students and the safety of our employees. But we got to remember why we're here, and that's essentially what we're covering today. Thank you very much.
Board comments?
Thank you.
Mrs. Whitfield?
I just want to say a huge thank you to you and all of the police officers and staff that you have. This is not something we've been talking about a lot lately, and that's a wonderful thing, just because things are working right. And I remember when we were talking about this every single week, and I'm so grateful to you, and specifically on behalf of my family, that you take care of my child every day, and all the work that's done to take care of all the children of Palm Beach County. I just want to say a huge thank you.
Mrs. Andrews?
And thank you, Chief Alexander, and your team, Ms. Paul, everybody sitting there. We really appreciate the high level of involvement our school police has within our schools. I mean, they're just a part of the school family. The children recognize how much they are counted on each and every day. When I visit the schools, I always take a moment to say hello to the officers in place. And their friends, their counselors, their teachers, they're a little bit of everything. And Palm Beach County has always been a cut above in having such a wonderful police department right here back in the day. So it's just kind of elevated with the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas process and funding from our referendum. We've just done some great things. And one of the things we talked about, Chief, is I'm hoping that maybe this year, once we can kind of get back to a normal flow of school, that we can survey our students and hear their voices as to what do they think about our school police department. I think that's critical to hear them and get input from them as to what kinds of things that they think that we're doing great and the kinds of things that we can do better and what they would want us to do that we may not be doing. Many of the school districts across the United States did those surveys right after the situation at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and the killing of George Floyd. They did those surveys, so that's something I'd like to see. And I think just kind of knowing that we have a wonderful youth court program, that's a little secret here in Palm Beach County, but parents know it's out there, and children know it's out there because that's a way of helping them to not get into law enforcement, to get in the juvenile justice system. You work so closely with me, your department, as I sit as the district, the board's representative for the juvenile justice department here within the county, as well as other organizations that tie right in to the criminality and things that happen to our children. We're trying to be proactive on the front end, and I think Palm Beach County is a cut above with proactiveness. When I think about the judges and all of the programs, all of the agencies that work with you as we work with the children, we want to keep them in school, and that's what we're trying to do. So I would love to see more involvement with this board to maybe see what's happening in youth court and get some statistics of all the great things we're doing with our youth court and restorative justice programs that's kind of helping our kids stay in school. But this overview right here, this high overview here is great because we're right on the money. So thank you so much.
Vice Chairwoman Brew?
Thank you, and I too want to say thank you. What makes our school police different is that they really are part of the school culture. especially in the young, I would say actually in all the grade levels. They really, they're there as mentors, they're there as supports. I know when my children were young and there was a problem, that they knew they could go to the officer and let the officer know without judgment, and there would be someone they could turn to. So I just want you to know that our door's open if there's things that you need. I hope you'll let the superintendent know. This is a challenging world that we live in right now, but that we're here to support you. We appreciate you. At some point, I'd like to get a breakdown for all of us of how many officers in each school. I know we had a lofty goal many years ago, and maybe we can still achieve that. But again, thank you so much. Thank you to all the officers for being there and for really caring about our students and our employees.
Thank you.
Chief, I'd like to just add my final comments, I guess. I've had, as the board knows, I've had the opportunity and the honor and privilege of being at every swearing in of every new officer for the last several years, and you all should try and make it if you can. It's amazing the quality of officers we have here. We have officers who were in New York City on 9/11. It's one of the things I always tell the new officers. Some of them are coming from other places where they weren't involved mainly with children. I remind them that they may be the first time a student has ever had interaction with a police officer, and the fact that they can form a lasting impression with those children and possibly get rid of some of the impressions in the children's minds from what they see on television. We are so fortunate to have such a great police department. One of the other things that, as a former police officer, that I fully understand is when I was called to a very difficult situation or a dangerous situation, I always waited for backup. We never went in without backup. We had to call for somebody to come. Our officers probably have the most dangerous position of any law enforcement officer in the country because they are told there is no backup. You cannot wait for backup. If there's a shooter in the school, you need to go down that hallway and take out that shooter before they kill our kids. And that officer may be all by himself or herself. That is an awesome responsibility, knowing that they go into school in the morning and they may have to take on an armed intruder or several without waiting for anybody to help them. So I just want to thank you, Chief, for bringing in the quality of officers we have that are willing to accept that just tremendous responsibility of knowing that, they're all by themselves for a period of time with some shooter that's aiming guns at them. So I'm sure the officers, they've heard me over and over, and all the new ones know me because I've been there, but we just have a great police department, and I thank you for leading it with us. Ms. Brew?
Thank you. And Mr. Barbieri, since you brought it up, the swearing in, I've always wanted to make this comment. I know you must know in advance, but usually I get the invitation the day before. So if there's any way to let us know before that, if you know you're having a swearing in, I can get it on my calendar. For me, it winds up that it's so last minute that I can't make it, but I would like to. So thank you.
Will do, thank you.
Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So I agree. I stand in full support of the school police. I think that, I know we've come a long way. I mean, so it's wonderful that we have law enforcement officers at schools who understand that part of their job is to save children, right? And, I used to say that I was concerned that we had way back too much of a attitude, like what I call the slam them up against the wall and arrest them, Johnny, police. And I'm so thankful that we've moved away from that, and we continue to work on our support of students and staff, right? And so I'm really thrilled about that, and just reflecting on the change over the years. I just want to say thank you for that. I do have a concern, though, as we've discussed, and I'll only share two of the things that we've discussed, but so I know we had to really ramp up and staff up rapidly, but there was a time that we did not hire school police that had not had experience on the streets, so to speak, right? It's my understanding that we are hiring some fresh out of the academy. And I also do have some current concerns that in our efforts to staff up, that we may not have always hired just the right temperament, right, for schools. And so I just want to put that caution out there. I think it is critically important that you have experience under your belt to interact with our young people, right? And so, you know, I just want to highlight that concern. And then the other one is, unfortunately, for many of our children, they've had interaction with law enforcement before that's not on TV, right? And so it is good, I think, to have caring people in uniform to help almost rehabilitate the image of law enforcement for those students and their families. But I want us to continue to explore these reports and studies that say that simply the existence of armed law enforcement on the campus is traumatic for many children. And so, and I imagine that's true because, you know, I have to take a deep breath, honestly, you know. I have to take a deep breath and calm myself, even when I recognize them as school district police, right? And so I just want us to be conscious of that so that we will continue to work on decreasing the stress response in young people who have had negative reactions with other, hopefully not ours, I think almost always other law enforcement. So we just have that at the forefront of our mind and continue to support our young people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you, and your department has always been great with being in the community. Chief Kissero traveled with me to Wellington. Different ones of your offices have just been almost everywhere with me. I just hope we can continue. This workshop that we're having today, even though it's a high level, many people don't know how sophisticated we are and what kinds of things that we're doing. And we have many educational advisory groups across the district and communities that, you know, the bottom line is academics and safety. Those are the two main things. You can't learn anything if you aren't safe. So people want to know, parents want to know, communities want to know how safe we are. So I know that you all are really busy, but I'm hoping because we have the different regions and leaders, it doesn't always have to be you, Chief Alexander, that when I can call on you to say, I need you out here to do this presentation for the benefit of the parents and the public, that you'll still be willing to do that in your role. Chief Kissero did it, and we did it a lot. And Wanda Paul has been with me, so we've been out there in the field making sure that, you know, municipalities, education groups, all of us, many times they want to know, especially if something has happened, but we want to be proactive to go out before something comes up. So I would love to see us continue that if that's possible.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, I'd just like to add, Ms. Andrews touched on it, but the expansion of the school police department was made possible by the referendum. That will be going back to voters in 2022. And I just want to remind everyone the benefit of that referendum and how important it's going to be to sustain these efforts well into the future. So, thank you.
Mrs. Andrews?
Certainly, this is the time to be out doing those presentations as we share with the public all the great things that we've done with the referendum funding, how we've kept the children safe, and we've upgraded ourselves so that we can be really top-notch in making sure our children are safe. So I think it's something that we all need to be out spreading the great word. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Alexander and staff. We appreciate all you do to keep everyone safe in the district. Mr. Superintendent, do you want to go to your next workshop?
Yes, sir. I'd like to invite Ms. Claudia Shea, our Director of Communications, to the table and her team. They're going to provide a workshop. They're going to take a look back at the recent accomplishments and the plans ahead for the upcoming school year. I'm always amazed by the communications team and our TV station 10. Our county's over 2,300 square miles, 179 schools, nearly 23,000 employees winning various awards, and they managed to cover it all, along with a $1 billion+ capital program. So just we're going to highlight some of their work and the work that's ahead of us.
And I
Thank
love
you.
that introduction. Thank you so very much. So thank you so much for having us, Chairman Barbieri, Vice Chair Brill, board members, and Superintendent Burke. So fun to be able to say that. So yes, thank you. That's exactly what we'll be doing today. We're just going to give you a high-level overview of what we've done over the past year, and really then focus on our back-to-school plan as far as communications, so we can have as smooth a transition as possible. So joining me today is Jordan Berenberg, who is our Manager of Communications, and Andrew Ruiz, who is being promoted to the station manager at 10. Kate Wentley, who you all knew and loved, retired, and she's got another grandbaby on the way, so she's home. And Valerie Crenshaw is so instrumental to everything that you see that is outward facing. So she oversees all of the school-based websites, 179 of those, plus the district one. She makes sure, they have daily scans to make sure we're in ADA compliance, which is an ongoing effort. So you'll be hearing from all of them. I just really wanted to introduce you to my dream team. So most of what you know that we do, you see in our videos, but so much more work goes on behind the scenes. During one of our workshops, you met our volunteer coordinator. The district's operators are in our department. The business liaison is in our department. So we have a quick video that we want to show you that just gives you a quick rundown of exactly what 10 and communications as a division does for the district.
The Department of Communications is your source for school district information impacting our schools, our students, our staff, and the entire community. We are the Education Network and Communications, together under one roof. From TV to social media, from the district's websites to its mobile app. Live phone banks during times of need, we're here to inform and answer you. We share important information from our board members and district administrators through our on-air and online coverage of meetings and workshops available on YouTube, on Comcast 234 and 235, and on AT&T UVerse Channel 99. Information is accessible to all on palmbeachschools.org and to employees on the Hub. We communicate through weekly electronic newsletters, updating parents, students, staff, and business partners, and in multiple languages, including Spanish and Haitian Creole. We also serve our diverse community by informing through various platforms, including social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We are your source for live coverage of all high school graduations, garnering tens of thousands of views from across the globe. We are your source for original educational programs focused on South Florida. Our commitment to students and staff also means providing technical support to schools throughout the district and partnering with the county to help ensure all students have access to the internet and the district's issued devices. Technology enhances our ability to connect you to your school leaders. We also bring you videos which highlight our students, our programs, and our schools, including their unique choice and career academies. The Education Network is your source for various events, including the Academic Challenge, Battle of the Books, Songs of the Season, and much more. We host district events, including Teacher of the Year and School-Related Employee of the Year, the 5-Star Awards Ceremony, and the district's Veterans Day Ceremony. Training videos produced by our team help enhance the work of other departments. So whether connecting students to meals or connecting them to Wi-Fi, communications, and the Education Network, keeping you informed.
And we also partner with other organizations, thanks to Dr. Robinson, Riviera Beach TV. Our programming runs on their channel, and also Channel 20, which is the Palm Beach County Government channel. And they're always, by the way, simulcasting your board meetings, so they're watching you right now as well. These are some of our metrics. We're not going to get too deep into it, but Jordan is just going to give you a little high-level view of how our numbers have grown over the last year.
So certainly, thank you, Claudia. So certainly, we control the levers of communication, both front-facing and internal. Front-facing being social media, our website, our mobile app. You can see a lot of growth that we experienced over the last year. Some really tremendous growth, specifically on both our Facebook, which was just north of 5,500, and on our YouTube channel, which grew 6,500 subscribers to our channel in just 1 year, which is substantial. Speaking of substantial numbers, you could look at our website, and I want to stress that everything that we do in this department is with an equity lens, and we do it in Spanish and Haitian Creole as well. So Valerie here is going to speak briefly about our website.
So as Jordan said, we do it in 3 languages as well, and just to touch base as well on the mobile app, that we had over almost 76,000 downloads, and in the past year, we had almost 3 million views to our mobile app. And everything that we have on our website, we try to have it available on the mobile app as well, so that, because we know quite a few people may not have a computer, so they have the mobile app. And one of the things at the start of COVID, we immediately set up a coronavirus page, and we not only, we set the page up, we put a banner on every school website so that banner would take people right to that page. It became a resource, and we updated it as we felt. We saw the community, we said we need more information here. So we update and we pivot information as we feel it's needed, and we say our social media person says, we need to put this out there. So we put that out there, then we created the distance learning page as we moved into distance learning and teaching and learning. They added information so that it was, again, a resource for parents and students in the community. And the final thing that I thought was kind of an interesting thing that we created last year were our summer institutes. Because we were not having any presentations face-to-face, we had to do everything virtual. So the African American, Caribbean Summer Institute typically would have 200 to 250 face-to-face. This year, they had 1,946 views to the page. Last year, they had over almost 6,000 views to the page. The Hispanic Summer Institute this year had over 2,000 views to the page, and last year, 7,000 views to the page. And our social emotional learning, which just went live yesterday, has already had 1,600 hits to the page. So that's a real positive, and now we're seeing the benefits of probably keeping these institutes. If they do go live, they also will be on the website platform.
And I wanted to give Andrew Ruiz, our newly appointed manager of 10, once again, congratulations, Andrew, to just talk briefly about our graduations.
So graduation, we've definitely elevated it. I mean, it is our premier event, and with 192,000 views of our graduations, we really do see the importance in broadcasting our graduations to the world, because we have been able to track it, and we see that there are people in European countries and South America that are actually tuning in to see their graduates walk across the stage. So we're definitely happy about that. We're happy about the collaboration with Eric Stern and graduation. And I think that between this year and last year's, which was a monumental feat, having all of graduation virtual and recorded, we gave people something to be proud of, which there was a lot of hesitancy, and you guys did receive a lot of those comments. So we were happy to spearhead that, and I'm really lucky to have a team that really comes together and rises to the occasion to make it happen.
And they also have a keepsake because we have a playlist of all the graduations, so now families can just download that and keep it forever. So we're just really proud of all that. Moving on to more of our community engagement, in addition to what you'll see here, we're really looking forward to this school year, going out in the community more in person and visit more of our community groups, getting out to the Glades, getting out to El Sol, you know, the Hispanic Coalition, working more with them. But just taking a look here, it's really funny how we take different approaches to different organizations. It seems like our stakeholders who are Haitian Creole are more receptive to getting information through radio or text. It's just very different. And so Beto, who is our liaison there, is out in the Haitian Creole community quite a bit. He's on radio at least a couple of times a week. Same with Jesus, who does our Spanish. They all have their own newsletters, and it's not just a copy of what we do in English. So they try to be specific to their own audience. They also have mobile apps in their native languages, and they really engage the community that way. ParentLink is huge. So ParentLink is the tool that we use to speak directly to our parents. And so, for example, if there's a lockdown at a school, what happens is we take over right away. The first thing that happens is you guys get a board alert. I'll send you a board alert and say, whatever school is now on a code red. And then right after that, we start sending messages out through Parent Link to all of the parents. And then Valerie also works on putting a banner on those particular school websites. And then we have a rhythm going. We work in lockstep with school police, and we update information to parents at least every 20 minutes, even if nothing has changed, because we know that 1 minute to a parent is an hour. So anyway, that's that. And I just love that we can just reach everyone so directly and so quickly. Do you want to go on?
I also wanted to take a minute and just talk about the Thank a Teacher campaign, which many of you have been frequent central cast members in that event, and I thank you for your participation. It means a lot to the school. During COVID, during the lockdown, it was kind of seen as very important to celebrate our teachers. We had overwhelming support and really beautiful messages that we needed to share with the teachers and celebrate them, kind of uplift the spirit, so to speak. And thankfully to Jimmy Peterkin, who handles our business, was able to get some big sponsors. We were able to really change the dynamic of the campaign, where it used to be we celebrated one teacher one time a week with a $25 gift card. Now all of a sudden we were celebrating 3 teachers, each one receiving $100, and that's because of the business partnerships that we were able to establish. And then these videos that were cultivated by Amy Littman were fantastic. So we were able to get 3,000 nominations for different teachers over the course from October through May, and we had over 56,000 views of those videos, so it was a tremendous success.
And we'll continue to have those on your calendar so you know when a school in your district is being honored and celebrated if you'd like to attend.
Yeah, and one other major campaign that I wanted to address is the Celebrate the Great, and Andrew can speak a little bit about that.
So talking about elevating things again, of course, you know, Principal of the Year, Assistant Principal of the Year, Teacher of the Year, and School-Related Employee of the Year are big recognition events for our district. And we're proud to announce that we're going to be partnering with the Education Foundation of Palm Beach County in order to make this one premier event in January. We've already sent out the invitations, but we do hope that if things do stay well with COVID, that we will be gathering at the South Florida Science Center to put this premier event together. Because again, one of the things that we believe in is trying to cultivate our own. And through these events, we're able to have people be recognized, earn the recognition that they deserve, and then of course, encourage others to aspire to those positions. I've heard you guys say several times that you guys like hiring from within and cultivating our own, and this is really about that campaign that Ms. Villasencio has been collaborating with us to establish.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite things that we've really continued to grow over the last couple of years. And I think at this time last year, I mentioned it to you as well when we did an update on back to school. But since we are in hurricane season right now, it's timely, it's worth saying again. If there were to be a catastrophic event, heaven forbid, on one of our campuses, or we have an emergency situation with the weather as we have, what Valerie does is she has a template already set up, so it's not like we're building anything from the ground up. It's ready to go. We have ghost pages for different situations. And so in Hurricane Dorian, what we did is we put this website together, and when parents write to us, we get so much input from parents on social media and staff. I'd like to see this, or I'd like to see that, so we add those items to this webpage. So for example, one of the most popular items we had, resources for how to talk to a young child when they're frightened. Because if you remember Dorian, they were predicting it was going to be a Category 5, which thankfully it didn't turn out to be. But this is a web page where we have all of our information about shelters, what to bring to shelters, the resources. We have a live link to the National Hurricane Center and the Emergency Operations Center. So in Dorian, for example, it had 330,000 page views, but that's only the main page. When you start clicking around, it was over 1.4 million clicks in just 10 days. So it just really shows how the tide has turned, and people are coming directly to us for information rather than counting on the local news stations who, you know, we give them information and there's a delay or it might be wrong. This way, all of this information comes directly to us, and we can totally control the authenticity of what is being put out there. So now here's what we're talking about in going back to school. So we've got our run of show all set. July 15th, that was our deadline for our web page. And our webpage is palmbeachschools.org/backtoschool2021. So it's got FAQs, it's got all the information that parents have been asking us, and that's a live page. We keep updating that. July 26th was our deadline for the guiding document, which you should have. I'll be going through that again in just a moment. And that is, we've already changed that since we released it 3 or 4 times, including twice today, I believe. August 1st, that's when we begin our back to school 10-day countdown. We always make a really big deal. So your time to shine. We have different banners with different kids, and we change it every day on our mobile and on our website. Last year was the first year that we used a phone bank because we thought with the devices and all these questions, and it's just really good customer service, right? We're always about the customer service. So we are putting that back into play, and that begins in 3 languages on August 2nd, and it goes through the 13th unless there's a need to go even longer, because this year we're just doing it down at 10, and we have enough folks internally where we can just let that go as long as we need to. August 3rd is our one-stop shopping back-to-school newsletter. August 4th, we used to call them news conferences. I like calling them community update because it's not so much anymore about updating the news media, but all of our stakeholders at one time. And so those are streamed live, and we share those links so anybody can watch. We have a welcome back call going out to parents, students, and staff on August 9th. And then, of course, August 10th is our big day. Click. Okay, and Superintendent Burke and Deputy Superintendent Tierney will be traveling throughout the county and going to various schools that day. We have 3 schools that have been completely renovated and just so much more going on. We'll have a superintendent conducting media interviews at schools along the way. So hopefully there won't be any hiccups, but if there are, Mr. Burke will be available at all the schools he's visiting, and the media knows where he'll be and when. Our COVID dashboard, which Valerie ran all of last year, was suspended for the summer, but on August 10th, that comes back. And then August 13th, the first Friday 5 resumes with our In the Know videos. Okay, so I was talking about the guiding document, and Mrs. Brill asked about, a lot of us like to have documents in our hands, and it's just a really nice way to be able to look at things. But really the best way to look at this document is electronically and digitally, because everything you see here is a hot link. So every page, if I were to, page 19, what about that? So if I just click on 19, it goes straight to that. Or what you were seeing, here, everything here is a hot link. So there's just a lot of information. We must have at least 20 hot links embedded in this, as well as videos. All right, so I touched on this briefly earlier about what happens when there's a lockdown at a school, or we just offer so much support to principals, whether it be the loss of a child, or a lockdown, or any information we've had hiccups with computer systems, or anything like that that we need to get out. And when we send out that messaging, we do it by text, we do a call, and we usually do an email. And again, since we have Beto and Jesus in our department, they translate immediately, and it's going out in 3 languages at the same time. Safer Watch, Chief mentioned that we're working on 2 videos. We have 1 developed already, and the Safer Watch app video, basically, here's the panic button, here's how it works, and here's how to do it. Let's see, film policy we recently thank you, that was approved today, so we're good with that. Social media best practices and business partnerships. This is all information that when we're at PLA next week, we'll be discussing with principals, because we do have so many new principals. Okay, and then I know that this is getting a little bit long, so I kind of want to go through this part of it quickly, but we do support so many other departments throughout the district. A lot of support went out to departments as far as recruitment efforts over the past couple of weeks, especially with transportation, maintenance, teachers, substitutes, after school, hospital, homebound. So I'm just going to ask Jordan to play just the very beginning of this video. This was one of our recruitment videos.
Palm Beach County offers it all.
As the 2nd largest county geographically in Florida, our Atlantic shoreline is 47 miles long, nicknamed Florida's Gold Coast.
We boast 110 parks and recreation facilities.
Agriculture is big here. 18% of the country's sugar is produced in our own backyard.
4 Major League Baseball teams call Palm Beach County.
So anyway, in the interest of time, you all have this PowerPoint, so you can take a look at it. And that is on our career page for anybody who's interested in working for the school district, so they have all that information. We had a marketing effort, which is ongoing, but we really launched this in the spring, and in my hands you see one of the postcards that we sent out. We sent out a postcard specifically to the families of students who left to go to other schools outside of the district, and we also had another unique one for parents who are homeschooling their children. And in the 10-day period that both of these postcards went out, we gained how many students?
North of 150 students, which was substantial in FTE money.
So we can't claim 100% that that was our efforts because, you know, teachers and principals were also calling, but we'd like to think that we played a role in that.
And our district marketing video.
And we do have a marketing video that we have shared with the Board of Realtors, and that is for them to share with any families thinking about moving into the area, or if you're a realtor taking folks out, and they ask, what are the best schools in the area? Should I go to a charter? Should I go to a private school? Should I go to the school district? Oh, well, glad you asked. Like, here's the marketing video for the school district of Palm Beach County.
What do you get when you choose the school district of Palm Beach County?
An A-rated school district and a whole lot more.
My school has helped me become a physician's assistant.
Medical academies. Advanced classes such as AP, IB, ACE, and dual enrollment college courses, with 72% of graduates earning at least one college credit with their high school diploma.
I'm going to be a professional dancer.
Nationally recognized arts education.
Again, you have that at your fingertips if you'd like to go through it. Click on. Okay, so many ways to stay in touch with us. As we mentioned in the beginning, we're on all over social media, our mobile app, we're on the website, we're on TV, and here are our most important phone numbers for folks to get a hold of us. Okay, and finally, we are going to show you one video in its entirety because it's brand new, hot off the presses. It's Your Time to Shine, and this is a video that we're actually going to be showing at PLA on Monday, and it just really, it speaks to the kids in the district, I think.
Hope you had a great summer. We all needed some time to relax and just have fun. But now I'm excited to make some waves in the classroom. I'm ready to get back to school. Palm Beach County, it's your time to shine.
There's nothing like the dog days of summer.
But now I'm switching backpacks. I have all my school supplies and I'm ready to go. Palm Beach County, it's your time to shine.
I get this cool feeling while riding my board. I hope you had a rad summer. But now I'm ready to jump into the classroom. Palm Beach County, it's your time to shine. This summer I went keep cool by swimming in the pool. But now I'm ready to mix it up in the lab. Palm Beach County, it's your time to shine.
This summer, I've been playing with my friends and working on my shot. And as you can see, I've been making a lot of shots. But now I'm excited to be back in school and learn about the world and be a part of NJRTC. Palm Beach County, this is your time to shine.
To all my fellow teachers, I hope you had a great summer. For me, I've loved working in the garden. But now it's time to help my students grow. Building relationships, learning math, becoming great readers, it's going to be an amazing year. Palm Beach County, it's your time to shine.
So we're just trying to build a little excitement with that. And so that's our theme for the year, Your Time to Shine.
Mrs. McQuinn?
I know that we're anxious to get to our 5:05 time, but remember, I did not take the time, I should have, to thank Chief Alexander. And you haven't heard me say, but we all know I could not have been a school administrator without the support of school police. So I'm a huge champion. Claudia knows, all of you know how often I call on you for help. So thank you for all you do.
It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure.
Mrs. Andrews?
And I know we're on short time, but I love the communications department, and your work in the Glades region has been absolutely fabulous. To thank a teacher, I don't know how many of those I went to this year. I can't name any one that I like more than the others. All of them are great, and you all are everywhere, and you're there with a smile, and the people always say, "Is 10 coming? When are they going to be there?" And you never let them down. You're there. So we keep up the great work. We love your work.
On the first day of school, Mr. Burke's visiting 2 schools in the Glades. Glades Central and Pahokee.
All right, I'll be there with Mr. Burke.
Ms. Brill, then Mrs. Whitfield?
Thank you. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. You do have the dream team, and you all have been so responsive to me and any of my requests. I try not to make a lot. As a marketing person, I do dig into things. And yes, you're right. It is better to go online. I did try to show some of my seniors who are grandparents. I had one yesterday who has a little one who was asking, the problem they have is with their phone, as big as it might be. You know, I had to show them how to get around it to see it and go and get larger with what they're looking at. So I do think that we have to still remember that there are people that don't have the digital access.
Right.
You know, so that's why I like to have both, but I just want to say thank you. And I hope you're going to be sending us the schedule so that we see where Mr. Burke and Mr. Tierney are going to be.
Mrs. Whitfield?
Thank you. I'll be very fast. First of all, you guys are so professional. I think we've gotten just used to it on how great you are. So we forget to be really appreciative of the way that you communicate with our community is just, it's unbelievable. The only concern I have that I wanted to put out to you, we don't have to talk about this now, but I feel like you're doing so much more and we're relying on you so much. And I'm concerned about your facilities and your technology and how that's going. And I would love to hear from you as we go forward, especially while we're talking budget in 3 minutes for this upcoming year, how we're going to, you know, kind of continue to grow the work that you're doing, because it's more valuable than ever, I think, for us to be thinking about how we communicate with the many different sectors of the community, especially in this past year where we did so much more digitally. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you so much.
And we only have a minute left, so I'm going to close it out so we can move on. I just want to thank all of you. As chairman, I mean, Mrs. Shea, I've called you on early in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning, at night, Saturdays, Sundays. I mean, the press has like been relentless, and you are always there, and your team is always ready to assist, and I just can't thank you enough. You guys do a tremendous job of making sure the board has all the answers we need, and we can respond quickly and, you know, professionally to the press. So I just want to thank you for the great work that you all do, and I ditto on all the comments from my colleagues about, you know, the tremendous contributions you make to the district, making us all look great. So
Well,
thank you.
thank you all, and thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak before you today.
All right, Mr. Superintendent, if it's okay with you, I'll take a motion to suspend the workshops. We'll start with the 5:05 time certain meeting, then we'll come back. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll take a motion to suspend. Mrs. McQuinn, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. I guess we'll wait till 5:05.
Okay, are we,
A few minutes.
minutes, okay.
Thank you. We're waiting till 5:05, which is the published time, so just a few minutes. Yes, sir.
So I don't know where the communications team went, but I want to add my accolades. I think that they've been doing a fantastic job. You know, I always want more. And so I actually just sent Claudia Shea an email with like 6 suggestions. So I'm going to push for more, because if I don't want more, it means I don't really love you. So thanks.
Thank you, Doc. go with your watch, Mr. Superintendent. The first public hearing regarding the 2021-2022 tentative budget is called to order. The final hearing to adopt the budget will be held on September 14th, 2021 at 5:05 p.m. The purpose of these hearings is to listen to the public regarding the superintendent's proposed millage rates and tentative budget. The board's agenda for this meeting includes the proposed millage levies, agenda item B1, and the tentative budget for fiscal year 2022, agenda item B2. The school board may and will amend the tentative budget prior to the final public hearing in September. We have one speaker at this meeting. Mr. Katz, would you like to come up to the microphone?
Good evening. My name is Justin Katz. I'm the president of the Palm Beach County Classroom Teachers Association. I come up here every year during the budget hearings just to advocate that the board and the superintendent keep in mind employee raises. Obviously, I represent CTA and the teachers, but I feel that the other bargaining units probably would echo this statement. For the past 4 years, I felt privileged to be able to work with the district and the CFO and all the other leadership to secure what I think are respectable raises. I think that this year, obviously, there's budgetary concerns with regards to students and student population decreasing, but that being said, we just see no reason to break that trend of successful raise negotiations. So we would ask the board to keep an open mind, to acknowledge that while these salary negotiations tend to take time, no matter what gets said back and forth in the past 4 years, we've settled at a level that was acceptable to both sides, and I don't think there's been any ill effect to the district or that anybody could claim as such. I know in the city of Boynton Beach, we had our budget workshops a couple weeks ago, and our board unanimously voted to make sure that there was a minimum of 3% raises in the budget for all city employees who don't have their step scales like the fire and police do. So we're looking for what I would call another round of successful raise negotiations. Over the past 4 years, we've done that, and I'd like to make it 5. I said when I first took this position that my goal at that time was to get some sort of multi-year raise deal so we didn't have to talk about raises every year, because I know you don't enjoy it just as much as I don't enjoy it, because it's a money conversation and those typically are not fun. But I'm hoping that this year we can have a good negotiation, and if there is an opportunity for a 2-year deal so that the remaining 2 years of my time as CTA president, I will not have to talk about raises again, that would be a selfish reward for me. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before Mr. Burke, Mrs. Bass, just for the record, would you go ahead and call the roll? I know that we've been in 5 meetings today, and we know we're all here, but for purposes of the minutes.
Sure. District 1, Barbara McQuinn.
Here.
District 2, Alexandria Ayala, absent. District 3, Karen Brill.
Here.
District 4, Erica Whitfield. Here. District 5, Frank Barbieri.
Here.
District 6, Marcia Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Deborah Robinson.
We have a quorum with 6 board members present, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, well, I'd like to welcome, we have 2 of the best CFOs in Palm Beach County at the table. We've got our new CFO, Ms. Heather Knust, and our chair of the Budget Advisory Committee, Ms. Sherry Brown, and you may recognize her. She's the CFO for Palm Beach County government. So 2 powerful people here. And, this is kind of surreal for me. I've been a part of 23 budgets coming to the school board in Palm Beach County. It's the first time I get to sit on the other side of the table. So I have lots of questions. No, but anyway, we're bringing forward to you 2 agenda items, as we do every year. One for the millage levies, another one for the tentative budget. And we're in compliance with the truth in millage statutes or legislation. And we have a prescribed calendar, that we must adhere to. So this is our tentative budget hearing. You're going to see the budget for the upcoming fiscal year is $3.983 billion. That's just 17 million shy of $4 billion. I know Ms. Knust will not rest until we reach $4 billion. It's our destiny. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Knust for the presentation. And we also have Ms. Brown, who has served the Budget Advisory Committee, and they have their annual report. Thank you.
So good evening. It is a little surreal to be, the CFO of the school district. So just thank you to the superintendent as well as to the board for this opportunity. The budget development process is long, and we're starting to finally near the end of that. So for FY22, the budget development process started in December with our first board meeting, first board workshop. It was one of 6 that we've had during the year. In addition to that, we had 5 meetings with the Budget Advisory Committee. So the purpose of the public hearing today is for the board to adopt the millage rates, the FY22 millage rates, as well as the recommended budget, FY22 budget from the superintendent. You'll be then approving the final millage rates and budget on September 14th. And so both the FY22 operating and capital budgets are balanced. And if you look at where we are right now, we're in a very different place than where we were last year at this time. So last year we were facing, so much uncertainty about what the economy, the impact to the economy was going to be, the length and severity of what the pandemic was going to do, not only in Florida, nationally, just throughout the world. And so the board made a lot of hard decisions and made reductions in both departments and schools in anticipation of budget reductions and revenue reductions that we were most likely going to face. It was very fortunate that because of the federal funds and also the state hold harmless, that we didn't actually have a reduction in revenue in this past year. So as a result of that, we were able to have some one-time savings that we were able to use in order to help balance the FY22 budget. And although that's not ideal, it is consistent with how we utilize the federal funds if you look back at the use of the ERA funds during the Great Recession. And so we still have a lot of uncertainty around enrollment and how much enrollment is going to rebound in this upcoming school year. So we need to make sure that we have enough resources available to meet the needs of the students. And so we're going to continue to monitor enrollment and make necessary adjustments as needed in order to minimize our dependence on those one-time non-recurring funds. And so I want to introduce Ms. Sherry Brown. Like Mr. Burke said, we're very fortunate to have Ms. Brown volunteer to be on our committee. As the CFO of Palm Beach County, we're very fortunate. And she's going to give a report out from the Budget Advisory Committee.
Great, thanks. Good evening. The Budget Advisory Committee met several times to review and receive updates on the development of the superintendent's proposed 22 budget. Governor Ron DeSantis formally signed the FY22 budget into law on Wednesday, June 2nd, including $1.5 billion in vetoes. Overall, per student funding is down $203 or 2.54% when compared to FY21 Florida Education Finance Program. Budget including the $681 million in funding maintained by Governor DeSantis, holding districts harmless for the decline in enrollment statewide. Per student funding, excluding the hold harmless, is $7,795, inclusive of a $53 increase in the base student funding, as well as an increase in the initiative to raise starting K-12 salaries to $47,500, offset by changes in the categories resulting in an overall net increase of $38.71, or 0.5%. In addition to FEFP funds, districts are also receiving a significant amount of federal funds to address academic and operational needs resulting from COVID-19. The Budget Advisory Committee met on June 3rd, recapped the actions taken to balance the FY22 operating and capital budgets. Even though enrollment in the school district of Palm Beach County is expected to increase, the increase is less than the enrollment loss faced in FY22, resulting in a net shortfall of $24 million. The district's share of COVID-related federal funds is over $500 million over the next 3 years. Applying federal funds to eligible expenses in FY21 has freed up funds to help address the loss in revenue in FY22. Using one-time funds to balance the budget is not ideal, although with the uncertainty surrounding enrollment and the potential resources needed to address the needs of the students returning, it is important to maintain a certain level of staffing. In addition, the use of the federal funds is consistent with how federal funds were utilized in 2009 after the Great Recession. Enrollment will continue to be monitored and staffing will be adjusted as needed. The federal funds will also allow the district to expand and provide supplemental programs and supports prioritizing the students identified with the greatest needs. The district will continue to seek ways to expand these opportunities to all students. There were only minimal changes to department budgets since departments were proactively reduced going into FY21. The FY22 operating capital budget is balanced. Even though the operating budget is balanced, there will continue to be ongoing monitoring of enrollment to make the necessary adjustments to minimize the dependence on one-time revenue as well as the impact of charter school litigation. The committee supports the recommendations of the superintendent presented June 3rd.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to get into the presentation. We always start with the certified school property values. The reason being is because it is such a large component of how education is funded in the state of Florida. And so based on the certified tax values, we're looking at an increase of 5.8%. If you remember, when the initial projection was around 2.5%. So we are seeing more than double what the original projection was.
Ms. Brill called that, I believe. She said it was going to come in higher.
So you were correct. And if you look at our millage rate, the millage rate is 6.875, which is down a little bit compared to the prior year. Most of the millage rate is set by the legislature. The board does have, minimal ability on actually setting the rate. And the portion that the local board does have discretion over is capped by the legislature as to how much you can actually increase that rate. And right now, that is at the max. And when you look at the rollback rate is the rate that we would apply to the current property values that would generate the same amount of revenue that we collected this past fiscal year. So the rollback rate, the rate of 6.875 is 2.5% greater than the rollback rate because property values have increased so significantly. So what does that really mean to an average homeowner? So looking at an average homeowner with a home of a value of $200,000, not taking into consideration any increase in assessed value, that homeowner would see a decrease in their property taxes of $27. If you take into consideration the 3% increase in assessed value, they'd see a slight increase of about $19. And our total budget is just shy of $4 billion. And I know that when I come back at final, it most likely will be over $4 billion because the reason for being slightly under is we haven't recognized all the ESSER funds that we're going to be receiving. We finally had some guidance released by DOE recently, just this past Monday, and so that will allow us to complete our application. So I believe by final, we will be over that $4 billion mark. So we have an increase right now of over $90 million. That is primarily due to the increase in our fund balance as a result of what I mentioned before, the federal funds as well as the savings generated from the hold harmless from the state. And so those are primarily one-time, non-recurring funds that we will have within our budget. So both our operating budget and our capital budget is balanced. Something that, I'm always happy to say, especially at tentative adoption, it has to be. We are going to continue to monitor our enrollment. We did set aside funds in order to address the referendum, depending on what the final outcome of that litigation actually ends up being. Our enrollment is up when you compare it to the prior fiscal year, but still down almost 5,000 students when you compare it to pre-COVID. The capital budget, like I said, is balanced. There's only been minor changes since the last presentation, the last capital workshop. There's going to be another capital workshop on August 4th, so you will be able to get more detail, but there really have been no significant changes from the last presentation. So looking at the board and what your next steps are, you have 2 items on the agenda. B1 is adopting the tentative millage rates. B2 is going to be adopting the FY22 tentative budget. Like I said, you have on August 4th the capital plan workshop, and then final adoption of the capital plan as well as the millage and the final FY22 budget will be on September 14th. And just before I adjourn, I just wanted to make sure that I mention that today is the beginning of mini lobster season, because I know that's something that Mr. Burke would always mention, so I wanted to make sure to keep the tradition going.
What a nice homage. Thank you.
Oh, great, we have a female version of Mr. Burke.
And with that, I wanted to open it up to the board to see if you had any questions.
Mrs. Whitfield?
I just want to take a really brief second to say a huge thank you to Ms. Knust for stepping into Mr. Burke's shoes. This is a huge role for you to fill because he is so wonderful, but I have full faith in you, and I'm actually really excited to see you in this role. I know that you've been born to be our CFO, so it's wonderful to see you here. And a huge thank you to Ms. Brown, my appointee. I'm very proud to have you here and to have you be the chair of the Budget Committee, and I do not understand why you want to do this in your professional job and volunteer job, but I am super grateful that you do. Thank you all.
Mrs. Andrews?
And thank you, Mrs. Brown, for volunteering and making a difference with us as we look at our finances. People do want to know how we're spending the money, if we're spending the money wisely, and it's taxpayers' money. And Ms. Knust, you've been trained by the best. I've seen you as you've grown and developed with Mr. Burke, and as I see you sitting out there now by yourself, you've got it. Okay. Congratulations to you.
Thank
Mrs.
you.
McQuinn?
Mr. Burke has never made a secret of the fact that you are the brains behind what he brings to us. That is really the truth. And I see that he's even passed along a little of that humor. Please let us know if he tries to micromanage you.
And I, like the other board members, want to thank you, Ms. Brown, for volunteering your time to serve on that very important committee for us. And Ms. Knust, wish you well. Like I tell Mr. Burke all the time, I don't know how you balance a $4 billion budget, but I'm sure you'll do a great job because you've been trained, as they said, by the best. Mr. Superintendent, you want to make your recommendations?
Yes, sir. Agenda item B1, I recommend the school board adopt the proposed millage levies of 6.875 mils for fiscal year 2022. The total millage rate is 2.52% greater than the rollback rate and is made up of 3.621 mils for required local effort, 0.006 mils for prior period RLE adjustment, 0.748 mils for discretionary operating, 1.500 mils for local capital improvement, and 1.00 mils for additional operating.
Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, seconded by Dr. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Mr. Burke?
Yes. Agenda item B2. I recommend the school board adopt a tentative district summary budget in the amount of $3,983,486,859 for fiscal year 2022. This includes the district organizational chart and school board statement of its organization and operation.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Mr. Superintendent, do you have anything else for this?
No, sir. I'd like to just say having Ms. Brown on the committee has been just not just serving the committee, but just having that connection and being able to work together and collaborate, share information. And also the county's been very generous with some of their ESSER dollars to help us with the Wi-Fi mesh project. So it's been a very great relationship in benefiting our district in multiple ways. So thank you, Ms. Brown, taking time to be here. And Ms. Knust, you made it look easy. I was trying to tell people it was a hard job, but now I'm not so sure.
Thank you both.
All right, thank you.
We need a motion to adjourn this meeting. Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, second by Dr. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. We'll reconvene the workshop. Mr. Superintendent, you want to call your last workshop?
Yes, sir. Our last workshop is Policy 5.20. That'll be led by Mr. Keith Oswald.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. I'm just going to get set up here.
Yes, Policy 5.20 is our student mental health crisis response policy. This is a brand-new policy. And this, too, is also made possible by the referendum approved by voters in 2018.
First, I'd like to take point of privilege and congratulations to Mr. Burke as well.
Thank you.
And good afternoon and good evening, board members. Very excited to be here to talk about this important proposed policy around student mental health crisis. So joining me today to make this happen, there have been multiple multiple departments who have come together around this particular proposed policy. In particular at the table, I do want to do a shout out to our attorneys who have been just critical as we work through this. So thank you to both of our attorneys, Lisa Carmona and Laura Pincus. In addition, Dr. Musanek, who's the Director of Mental and Behavioral Health Services Department, has been fantastic through this. In addition, I know a lot of shout outs for our Chief of School Police, but Chief Alexander has been here step by step through this particular policy, as well as her staff. Not here at the table, but working closely with us and have been involved is our Director of ESC Services. So Kevin McCormick, thank you for your support through this process, as well as Diane Wyatt, Director of Safe Schools. And anybody else I forgot, I apologize, but we appreciate your support. So this particular policy and the scope of this policy addresses school district employees' response to students experiencing mental health challenges. The policy covers prevention, intervention, postvention, as well as data collection and monitoring. In addition, this particular policy will apply to all schools, students, employees, as well as our district school police officer. In addition to the scope that was described, just mentioned, it also goes into detail regarding required training and notification to parents. And it's important to note that this policy does not interfere with the duties and obligations of law enforcement and emergency medical personnel to respond to emergency situations. Section 4 does go into detail. There's a number of areas of definitions that are described in detail in Section 4. I won't go through all those, but again, the policy, the draft policy is attached for the board to review. This time I'll turn over to Dr. Musanek.
Hi, good evening. I just want to touch on the prevention portion of the policy. All school board employees shall attend training on the continuum of behavioral and mental health services that are offered to students in schools and the community. School-based employees will also receive annual in-service training in suicide prevention for a minimum of 2 hours. And then additional trainings will be offered on de-escalation strategies and the positive redirection of students. In terms of intervention, any employee who has reason to believe that a student is at imminent risk of threat to themselves or others shall report such belief to the principal or their designee. Every attempt must be made to de-escalate a student in crisis with the aim of returning the student to the learning environment. If de-escalation interventions are unsuccessful and the student is believed to be experiencing a mental health crisis, school administrators must seek assistance from the district's mobile response team, which we call the CAPE team. That's our Crisis Assessment, Prevention, and Education team, the Mobile Crisis Response Service, or school police. So in terms of referrals for involuntary examination under the Florida Mental Health Act, only a licensed CAPE team member, that's our district team, a licensed member of the Mobile Crisis Response Service, or a school police officer working in conjunction with their supervisor may make the determination that a student meets the criteria for a referral for an involuntary examination as outlined in Florida statute. Prior to transporting a student for involuntary examination, the school principal or their designee must make a reasonable attempt to notify the student's parent, guardian, or caregiver before the student is removed. In terms of prohibitive actions, referral for involuntary examination may never be used as a behavioral consequence, and it may not be used as a threat against a student and/or their parents. There is a documentation or reporting piece that's contained in the policy. All threats made by students, whether to themselves or to others, must be documented using the district's behavioral threat assessment tool. And also an incident report should be completed by the end of the school day, but not to exceed 72 hours. The incident report then should be shared with the parent or guardian within 3 school days after the student was transported, and a copy of the incident report will be maintained in the student's cumulative file, and another copy will be forwarded to the regional office. And I believe
The monitoring of this particular policy is a critical component, and especially when it comes to any type of transports that occur with our students. So if more than 3 transports occur in a particular school during a quarter, the regional instructional superintendent will meet with the school principal, and we will assess whether or not we need to provide additional resources and support or training to that particular school. In addition, district staff, the school police department, as well as community representatives are also going to meet quarterly to take a deep dive and review any transport, and review the data, and to see and make recommendations for improvements. On top of that, we will be providing to the school board monthly reports to you on the number of transports. When it comes to postvention, obviously a very critical component as well to ensure the success of our students ongoing. So any students transported for an involuntary examination will be referred to the school-based team to ensure in particular that any type of additional services are in place for their success at the school center. These could include safety plans, behavior intervention plans, any type of counseling and support services. And as I think Ms. Andrews, you had mentioned earlier today, thanks to the referendum, we're able to provide a lot when it comes to school policing, but also when it comes to mental and behavioral health supports for our students. We, as you all know, I do want to thank the voters as well for their support. We are added school behavioral health professionals, every one of our campuses, additional school counselors, psychologists on our campuses. We have a comprehensive team at every school, as well as our co-located and our CAPE teams to provide that additional support ongoing for our students. And I think this will be a model that will be able to support across the country about how we address our whole child. Also new in House Bill, Senate Bill 590, which has not been a requirement before, is a reporting requirement to the Florida Department of Education. So on an annual basis, through the superintendent, we will provide that report, which is now new out of 590. And then moving forward, we will bring the policy for development on August 18th to the school board. And then our goal is to have it adopted by September 22nd so we can begin rolling out, provided additional support and training to our school administrators, as we have been doing. In addition, on this upcoming Monday, we will be meeting with our school principals and talking about this particular policy, ensuring that a number of things that are already required by law that are in place, in particular, any of the implications of 590. So at this time, I'll turn it back over to Superintendent Burke and to the school board.
Mr. Burke, if you
We're
have
good. No more comments from me. No.
Ms. Brill?
Thank you. So I have a couple of requests, and then I have two suggested definitive policy verbiage changes, and then another one to discuss. As far as my requests for additional information, well, one is a training request, and this is for Chief Alexander, is just to make sure that our school police officers have disability training. You know, I don't know if that's a discussion you want to have separately later on, but I think it's imperative that if they're going to be making decisions, that they have that training. Also, line 159 of the policy references Palm Beach County Behavioral Health Transportation Plan. Can we get a copy of that, please, so that we can review it since it's mentioned in our policy? And I'll go through these quickly. Line 193, it's actually 192 to 193. It's about the monitoring, the feedback that's given to us. It currently states data that's going to be given to us will include the school name, grade of student, race of student, and ESE eligibility if applicable. I'd like to add to that sentence, and the type of restraint, if any, used. And I don't know if we need to discuss that or if you can, when you bring it back. Before I give you the other verbiage I'd like to add, I have a question for you, if I may continue, is we say in line 198, and you said it in your presentation, that if there are more than 3 transportations, so in other words, bigger acts occur at a school in a quarter, that we're going to look for more information. Somehow, I don't know if it's me, it feels like that's a big number. I was thinking more like 2, but do you think that 2 is too small? Because I don't know what the occurrences normally are. But I would think that if a school has 3 Baker Acts in 3 months, you know, it needs to be looked at. And I don't know if that's something we need to discuss.
There will be a communication each time a Baker Act does occur or a transport.
I'm sorry, I
occur.
can't hear you.
There will be each time an occurrence where transport does occur, where that school is going to have responsibility to notify the regional office. So they will be notified each time that that happens. So this was another layer to make sure that additional support was needed.
Okay.
We
Thank
can
you.
monitor, and as we give these monthly reports to the school board, we can review that and make any modifications if we think we need to reduce that.
Well, I kind of think if there's more than two, it should be looked at, but that's something that you can discuss amongst yourselves
Sure.
and see if you agree. And then my final verbiage that I'd like to add in is in line 216. It's actually that paragraph where it says that all students transported for an involuntary examination shall be referred to the school-based team for review, whether or not the student was admitted for medical treatment by the receiving facility. The school-based team shall consider additional support and services, comma, such as a safety plan, comma, behavioral intervention plan. Somewhere in there, I wanted to put in IEP, comma, 504 plan, because I think that sometimes, you know, if there's a student that does have some issues and they haven't been identified yet, we should specify in here somehow that, you know, we're going to look at that. So that was the verbiage I wanted to add. And that's it. And thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Anders?
Thank you. On line 125, can you tell me who the supervisor is? A school police officer, I'll go from the beginning on 24 and 25. Only a licensed CAPE team member, a licensed member of the Mobile Crisis Response Service, or a school police officer in consultation with a supervisor. Who is that? Supervisor. Who would that be?
For the school police officer?
No, it's just for any one of these, I guess. It says in consultation with a supervisor, so I just want to know what supervisor would that be?
That's intended for us, I believe, and that, what that would represent would be someone assigned supervisory responsibilities for our police officers in the schools.
So that would be just a supervisor within the school for school police? Is that
That's
what we're
correct,
talking
correct.
about?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, I didn't know what that was. And then as we went down a little bit for making contact with the parents, let me see where that was. A reasonable connection, make efforts, this is 146, line 146. School staff should make reasonable efforts to communicate with the parent/guardian. I think could be helpful because there may not be a parent, there may be a guardian, so I'm thinking parent/guardian.
Thank you.
Sandra, is that it?
Well, one more, and I think Ms. Brill said it, but it sounds like from the discussion, and I don't know where it is in here right now, I'm just worried about when will the region superintendent or the instructional superintendent know when a child is being transported. It sounds like they're going to be notified with additional transports where the school is done, but on a day of a transport at a particular school, when will the region superintendent know that there was a transport from their particular school? Where is that? I was looking for it. If it's not there, I would just like to make a suggestion. I would think that if a school is transporting somebody, the police and the people who, the CAPE team, that the region superintendent need to know that on that day. Some way there should be some kind of communications. I heard you reading it, and I heard you say that, you know, they would be informed, but it may not be on the day of the transport. Did I miss that, or is that in there like that?
It's the incident report will be completed by the end of the school day, but not to exceed 72 hours. And I believe that 72 hours was to cover if something happened over a weekend or there was some sort of event maybe on a Friday. That gives us that weekend space.
Okay. What line is that on so I can see it, please?
Section 164 right at the bottom.
It currently has the notification to parents. We can add in there that the notification will extend also to the region office.
Yeah, I think they need to know.
Sure.
Thank you.
Clarify language.
So I got a couple questions. Back on the question that Mrs. Andrews asked about the supervisor. Chief, it's a police officer, my understanding is that that qualification is only that the police officer has to do it in consultation with supervisor, not those other people. Who is the police officer's supervisor? Would it be another member of the police department, or is it going to
That's
be?
correct. And it could be anyone assigned supervisory responsibility. So it's not just limited to detectives or sergeants. It could be a lieutenant, it could be a captain, anyone who has overall responsibility for supervision.
Okay, got it. And the other question back on the 72 hours, can we modify that language that says it'll be done the next school day, but if the next school day isn't till, if there's a holiday or an intervening weekend, then it's 72 hours, so it's clear that it has to be done by the next school day unless there's, there is no next school day the next day within, so can we modify that language? So the way it's currently written, you really can do it the next school day or 72 hours, whichever you prefer to do it, but it should probably be done by the next school day, whatever, okay? No 72 hours unless there is no school day the next day.
Thank you. Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
And this isn't in the policy, but it's just another question. Do we have the Cape team in the Glades region, or are they working with, Crestwood and Royal Palm Beach? Do we have an actual team out in that region?
They are shared between West and Glades. They're on, when we look at our statistics about the calls that Cape Team gets, they only receive, that particular site only receives 18% of the calls for the whole district. So it is, it's kind of our out of the 4 teams, it's second to last in terms of the number of calls. We get much more from Central and South. However, and then if we break it out just to the Glades schools, we had very few. There was only 25% of the calls that really were direct calls from Glades schools for that Glades West team. So out of the total, the 3/4 of the calls were for the West. So we're as far west to be able to cover the whole district. We do have 4 teams. They're in North, Central, South, and then that West/Glades area. So we really look at our data to make sure that we're able to cover as greatest area as possible. Also, the mobile response team that the county has actually has a location in the Glades. So they're there as well. So they're there. They have a team. They have 3 different teams, and one is located right there in the Glades.
That's important to me because I do know someone that was on the Cape team, and they did request for me to look into the possibility of having one in the Glades. But if you're feeling that we're being taken care of, because it takes a while to get over there from wherever that person might be, and I don't know where they are as it relates into the central western region, but if you feel you have it covered, I'll appreciate that, but I'll keep you in tune because I did hear this, that it was not one there and it was needed, so thank you.
One more question. On this report that the board's going to get on a monthly basis, can you include whether or not the hospital personnel agreed that the child needed to be detained there in the hospital? Because
I don't think we're going to be able to get all that data clearly because of HIPAA. So unless a parent signs a release, they don't necessarily say, we won't know whether a child was hospitalized or not. We have the data for the transport, which is the initial referral for an involuntary examination, but we may not know what happens once they get to the hospital. We do encourage, we have community people there at the hospitals and working for the hospitals that encourage parents to please share their information with us, with the school, so that we can help support, because it's not only children who are being referred for an involuntary examination just from schools, it's also from our community and foster care. There's and those are our kids too that come back to school. So we want to know as much as possible who.
Okay, so I didn't realize HIPAA would prevent that, but I mean, how do you know and how does the board know that it's not being abused? That, I mean, if you have no way to check to see whether or not doctors at the hospital agree that the child should be there, how do we know that there's not being any abuse here until we get sued by somebody saying that we abused it? So how do we know that? How do you know that?
What we're trying to do with this policy in particular is put those extra levels of safety and certainty and training in place so that we can really look and everybody wants children to be safe. So we want to, we don't want to over-identify, but we certainly don't want to under-identify students who are in crisis. So through this policy, we're hoping that we will be able to put some parameters in place that will really secure both the students and the school and our environment so that everyone is safe.
Okay,
Currently,
so-
we do have a good working relationship with a number of facilities where we work very closely with them to, be very transparent with us, and we have ongoing conversations. I know the team meets with them on a regular basis to
Okay.
let us know.
All right, Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So, yeah, and I would agree that is included in the report, even if you don't get it 100% of the time. And I think that's something that we need, that communication we need to follow up. We need to have further conversations on. And I just wanted to make the point that I shared some comments and concerns with Mr. Oswald that I think that if I put on the public record, General Counsel might start cautioning me, so I won't, but I just would ask that Mr. Oswald share their input with the group to see if they think that it is, would be beneficial to make those suggested changes.
And I have
Thank
shared those with this group, and we're working through that.
Thank you.
Mrs. Andrews?
And I just got a text from a principal who said that usually we're asked to call, the Glades region is asked to call the mobile group. So can we look into possibility, because the principals are saying that, they're trying to get help, but they're actually referred to the mobile group that's out there, that we can look into that, please, because it was brought to my attention a while back, so I really want us to get a CAPE team out there or something out there, somebody out there. I don't want them to have to wait 30 minutes to an hour to get out there.
All right, any other comments? Mr. Superintendent?
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Board members, before we adjourn, I want to take the opportunity to congratulate Maria Baez, who has been 8 years a tremendous asset she's been 8 years my tremendous asset in the school board office. I reluctantly agreed with Superintendent Burke when he called me about, can I have her? And, so I reluctantly agreed to say yes. And so I just want to congratulate Maria. She's, you've got a great secretary coming with you, administrative assistant. She's just a tremendous asset into us in the board office, and I'm sure she'll show you the same in the superintendent's office.
Yes, sir. She already has hit the ground running, and it's probably maybe my best decision made to date. Well, it is my best decision made to date. Thank you.
Yeah, you better
Probably
say
the
that,
only
'cause she's
one.
listening probably, and she can make your life miserable if she doesn't. Well, anyway, we need to go ahead, Mrs. Andrews.
And Maria takes care of all of us, even though she was actually your person. She was my person too, and I think she took care of all of us.
But she was mine first.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Burke, you have really hit the jackpot.
Yes, I have.
So many
She's
ways.
going to take care of all 23,000 of us now.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll have a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Whitfield, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Meeting is adjourned. Good night, Mr. Superintendent. We'll see you next week.
You survived your